I can still taste the bitterness of overcooked chicken from that Wednesday night at Patricia Henderson's home. My partner Jasmine had practically dragged me there, insisting her mom was eager to meet the man in her life. Looking back, I should have seen the warning signs. There I was, seated at that glossy oak dining table, my thrift store suit jacket feeling like it was suffocating me with each tick of the grandfather clock. Patricia's gaze examined me like I was some kind of pest that had invaded her pristine dining room. "So, Marcus," she began, her tone syrupy and fake. "Jasmine mentioned you're employed at a storage facility." The way she emphasized storage facility made it sound like I was cleaning sewers for a living. "Yes, ma'am. I'm actually a supply chain supervisor at Henderson Freight Services. Plus, I'm enrolled in evening courses for my business administration degree." I worked hard to keep my tone measured. Polite. Jasmine's fingers found mine beneath the table, squeezing tight. Patricia's chuckle cut through the air like shattered glass. "Evening courses. How dedicated." She pivoted toward her spouse, Thomas, who might as well have been furniture. Thomas completed his graduate studies at Yale before turning 26. Jasmine's father cleared his throat. "Patricia, that's enough." "Enough? I'm simply having a discussion." She leaned closer, her pearl earrings reflecting the overhead lighting. "Marcus, let me speak plainly. You appear to be a decent person, but you simply don't measure up to what our daughter requires. Jasmine needs someone with a real future, with pedigree, someone capable of providing the lifestyle she deserves." The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the blood rushing through my temples. "Mother." Jasmine's voice trembled. "This is completely unacceptable." Patricia delicately touched the corner of her lips with her cloth napkin. "It's acceptable because I'm your parent. Somebody needs to prevent you from making a catastrophic error in judgment." That drive back to Jasmine's place felt endless. My knuckles were bone-white against the steering wheel of my ancient Toyota Camry. The heater sputtered weakly, and our breath created clouds on the glass. Jasmine kept apologizing through her tears, but her words barely registered over the echo of Patricia's condemnation. "I'm so sorry, Mark," Jasmine whispered. She crossed every line. "Don't worry about it," I replied, though we both knew it was a lie. When I dropped her at the apartment complex her parents subsidized, I couldn't help noticing the contrast to my own situation. Later, alone in my cramped one-room place in the city's east side, staring at the ceiling tiles, something crystallized inside me. Orphaned at 9 after losing my dad, I'd clawed my way through every obstacle life threw at me. I'd juggled full-time work while finishing my associate degree. And this woman had assessed me like I was worthless. My phone lit up. A text from Jasmine, "I love you. Please don't let her words define you." Then another message popped up. "Unknown sender, this is Patricia Henderson. End things with my daughter immediately. I have influential connections and won't hesitate to use them against you." I stared at those threatening words for what felt like hours. Then I opened my computer and began researching something I'd been postponing, small business financing options. If Patricia Henderson believed I wasn't worthy, I'd prove otherwise. Not to satisfy her. Not even for Jasmine's sake. For myself. The following morning, I entered my manager's workspace. "Tony, got a minute? There's something I need to discuss." "What's going on, Mark?" "I'm planning to launch my own freight company. I've been observing operations here and believe I can improve on the model." Tony regarded me like I'd lost my mind. "Your own company? Marcus, are you aware of the failure rate for transportation startups? 78% in year one." "I'm aware. I've analyzed the data extensively." He reclined in his seat, studying my expression. Tony had been supportive of my career, advancing me 3 times in 4 years. "Something's changed." Just last month you were inquiring about our internal advancement opportunities. I couldn't mention Patricia, couldn't explain the humiliation still churning in my gut like poison. I've just reached a point where I'm prepared to invest in myself. Tony nodded thoughtfully. Here's what I can do. I've got industry connections who might consider backing you. And if this is genuine, I know someone liquidating their customer database, small to medium enterprises needing freight services. But Marcus, understand something. This isn't a hobby. You'll be putting everything on the line. I don't have much to lose, I responded, thinking of my studio, my unreliable vehicle, my bank balance that never exceeded $3,000. Jasmine reached out that same afternoon. Can we meet? We need to talk. We convened at our regular place, a cafe downtown. She looked drained, shadows beneath her warm brown eyes. Mother's been relentless. She's threatening to discontinue my financial support if I continue our relationship. My heart sank. Jasmine. But I don't care. She grasped my hands across the small table. I'm 27 years old. I'll find employment, secure my own apartment. I'm finished allowing them to dictate my choices. I wanted to trust her conviction, but I noticed the uncertainty in her expression. The way she glanced at her expensive handbag like she was already grieving what she'd sacrifice. 3 weeks later, I found myself at a community bank, my financing application laid out before me. The loan specialist, an older African-American woman named Mrs. Chen, examined my documents with obvious skepticism. Mr. Johnson, I'll be direct with you. Your credit profile is minimal. Your assets are limited, and you're proposing to enter an oversaturated industry. Yes, ma'am. I'd encountered similar responses at 5 previous institutions. However, she continued, meeting my gaze, I've been in this profession for 24 years, and I've developed an instinct for recognizing determination. You possess it. I'm approving $60,000, but be clear, if you fail to repay this, you'll be drowning in financial obligations for the foreseeable future. My fingers trembled signing the documents. $60,000. More capital than I'd ever dreamed of touching, and I already had every dollar allocated. That evening, Jasmine appeared at my door unexpectedly. She looked transformed, dressed casually in denim and a basic sweater instead of her typical designer attire. I secured employment, she announced, beaming. Communications specialist at a community foundation. The compensation is modest, but it's mine. And I've leased a small place in the suburbs. I embraced her tightly, kissing her deeply. I'm incredibly proud of you. I informed Mother this morning. She became irate. Claimed I was destroying my future for someone who would never succeed. Jasmine's voice wavered slightly. She predicted you'd abandon me once the struggle became too difficult. I'm going to prove every word she said was wrong, I vowed. Every single assumption. The initial 6 months nearly destroyed me. 20-hour days became routine, 7 days weekly. Rapid transit solutions operated from a rented industrial space I'd found outside the city. I personally drove a second-hand delivery truck purchased with loan funds, handling shipments while simultaneously cold-calling potential clients during any available moment. Jasmine and I barely crossed paths. When we managed to connect, I was exhausted, reeking of diesel and cardboard, struggling to maintain consciousness. Yet she never protested. She'd deliver meals to the warehouse, assist with paperwork organization, edit my business proposals. You're going to succeed, she'd murmur, working the tension from my shoulders as I hunched over spreadsheets at 3 a.m. I have complete faith in you. But Patricia hadn't finished her campaign against us. Patricia Henderson wielded influence, and she weaponized it ruthlessly. 2 significant prospects unexpectedly withdrew after verbal agreements. A safety inspector materialized at my warehouse under suspicious circumstances, citing violations that cost me $4,000 to remedy. I couldn't definitively prove Patricia's involvement, but the pattern was undeniable. One evening, my phone displayed Thomas's name, Jasmine's father. We'd barely communicated since that disastrous meal. "Marcus, I'm contacting you without Patricia's awareness," he said softly. I want you to understand that I don't endorse my wife's assessment of you. What you're undertaking is commendable. I appreciate that, sir. However, I also feel obligated to caution you. Patricia is exceptionally tenacious. She won't cease her efforts to separate you from our daughter. If you genuinely care for Jasmine, perhaps consider whether subjecting her to this conflict is in her best interest. The call ended, leaving me unsettled. Was I being selfish, making this about my pride? Everything shifted on a drizzly November morning when Tony called. Mark, remember those industry connections I mentioned? Just finished a meeting with Leonard Carter, he's operations director at Regional Healthcare Distribution. They're searching for a new freight partner. Their current provider is failing spectacularly. My pulse accelerated. What's the scope? 7-figure annual contract with renewal options. But Marcus, you're competing against established corporations with 10 times your capacity. You'd need a flawless pitch. I dedicated 4 days to preparation, researching everything about regional healthcare distribution, studying their shipping patterns, pinpointing inefficiencies in their existing arrangement. Jasmine helped me rehearse my presentation until I could deliver it flawlessly. The meeting took place in a glass-enclosed conference room in the financial district. Leonard Carter sat centrally positioned with 5 additional executives, all examining me like I was inexperienced and out of my depth in my discount department store suit. Mr. Johnson, Leonard began, I arranged this meeting as a courtesy to Tony. But I'll be straightforward. You're operating a minimal operation from a rented warehouse. Why should we entrust you with our distribution network? I advanced my first presentation slide. Because I'm hungry, Mr. Carter. Your current provider is a regional corporation serving 50 clients. You're not their priority. I displayed the data, their own delivery failures projected in crimson on the screen. To me, you wouldn't be one among 50. You'd be one of 7. Every shipment would receive my direct oversight. For the next hour, I demonstrated everything: cost reductions, efficiency gains, contingency strategies. Leonard remained silent when I concluded. Then he smiled. When can you begin operations? The regional healthcare distribution contract transformed everything. Within half a year, I'd employed 4 drivers and secured proper warehouse facilities. Within 12 months, I had 20 employees and had secured 6 additional major accounts. Rapid Transit Solutions had become legitimate, profitable, expanding. Jasmine and I relocated together to a comfortable 2-bedroom unit across the river. Nothing extravagant, but it belonged to us. We were content. And Patricia Henderson was furious. Mother appeared at my workplace yesterday, Jasmine informed me one evening, her voice tense. She created a disturbance, accused you of infidelity given your work hours, claimed you're manipulating me. I drew her close. You know that's completely false. I know. But Mark, she's escalating. She's spreading rumors throughout her social network that I've been brainwashed, that you're controlling my decisions. She's making me a social outcast. Does that trouble you? Jasmine paused momentarily. Sometimes I miss certain family members, my younger cousins. But I don't miss the constant judgment, the perpetual pressure to conform to impossible standards. She looked up at me. I'm more fulfilled now than I ever was in that environment. But Patricia wasn't finished. The next attack came through Thomas. He contacted Jasmine, his voice unsteady. Your mother's experienced a cardiac incident. She's at University Hospital. She's requesting you. We rushed there, anxiety churning in my stomach. Patricia occupied a private room, appearing pale but clearly stable. The instant Jasmine entered, Patricia's expression transformed from vulnerable to severe. So, you finally decided to come. I suppose he permitted it. Mom, what occurred? Are you all right? Patricia's smile turned cold. I'm stable. Simply stress. Stress from agonizing over my daughter destroying her life with someone beneath her station. I understood immediately, this had been theatrical manipulation to secure Jasmine's attention. Jasmine recognized it too. Her complexion shifted from pale to flushed with anger. You fabricated a heart attack? I experienced genuine palpitations. Real symptoms caused by the stress you've inflicted on me, Patricia stated, each word calculated and venomous. The physician said my blood pressure reached dangerous levels. This is what you're doing to me, Jasmine. We're leaving. Jasmine grabbed my hand, pulling me toward the exit. If you exit through that door, you're no longer my daughter. Patricia's voice escalated to a shriek. I will eliminate you from my estate. You'll receive nothing. Nothing. Jasmine stopped, turned back. Her voice emerged calm, cold. I stopped being your daughter when you prioritized your ego over my happiness. Keep your inheritance. We departed with Patricia's screaming fading behind us. In the vehicle, Jasmine broke down weeping. But these weren't tears of sorrow. They represented relief. Liberation. Like draining an infection. But I couldn't shake the conviction that Patricia was orchestrating something more devastating. A woman like her, with resources and connections, didn't simply surrender. I was correct. 2 weeks passed before the certified mail arrived. Patricia was filing suit against me for alienation of affection, an antiquated legal provision still enforceable in certain jurisdictions, alleging I intentionally destroyed her maternal relationship. Her legal team demanded $250,000 in damages. This is absurd, Jasmine said, reading the lawsuit documents. This statute dates from the 19th century. But it remains technically enforceable in our jurisdiction, I said, my mind already calculating. Legal defense costs alone could bankrupt my company. This is Patricia's genuine strategy. She couldn't control you anymore, so she'll financially destroy me. I retained an attorney, a formidable advocate named Karen Osei who'd established a reputation defending against baseless litigation. Karen reviewed the case with a somber expression. This is preposterous, but defending it will cost $40,000 minimum. And Marcus, I must inform you, Patricia Henderson has retained a prestigious firm. They'll prolong this deliberately, drain your resources systematically. Then they'll drain my resources, I said. I'm not settling. Karen leaned forward, her eyes sharp. Or we could investigate. Women like Patricia Henderson with established wealth and social prominence frequently have secrets. If we discover something, we could leverage it to make this disappear. It felt unethical, descending to Patricia's tactics. But Jasmine touched my arm. Do it. We need to understand what we're truly confronting. The private investigator Karen recommended was a former federal agent named Derek Shaw. He was costly, but thorough. 2 weeks later, he entered my office with an extensive dossier. Mr. Johnson, your prospective mother-in-law is a fascinating subject, Derek said, distributing documents across my desk. The Henderson family wealth, it's largely depleted. Thomas's investments collapsed in the financial crisis and never recovered. That residence they occupy? They're 8 months delinquent on mortgage payments. The vehicles, the jewelry, the lifestyle, it's all illusion financed by maximized credit obligations. I examined the bank statements, the foreclosure notifications. She's bankrupt. Worse, she's desperate. And you know what else I uncovered? Derek extracted another document. Thomas Henderson has a daughter from a prior relationship. Melissa Henderson Cooper, 34 years old, residing in Philadelphia. Patricia compelled him to sever all contact when they married. Melissa has attempted reconnecting with her father for years. Jasmine's hand flew to her mouth. I have a sister. Half-sister. And there's one additional finding. Derek's expression darkened. Your warehouse violations? I traced them back. Patricia compensated that safety inspector. $3,000 under the table. I have financial records, electronic communications. What she committed is criminal. Armed with this intelligence, Karen contacted Patricia's attorneys and requested a meeting. We assembled in a conference room at Karen's firm, me, Jasmine, Karen on one side, Patricia, Thomas, and their attorney on the other. Patricia appeared impeccable as always, but I perceived the deterioration now, the way her designer outfit hung slightly loose, the barely concealed damage on her accessories. Thomas looked exhausted, defeated. Patricia's attorney, an arrogant man named Benjamin, spoke first. "We're here to negotiate settlement parameters." Karen smiled. "Indeed we are. But first, I'd appreciate Mrs. Henderson explaining to her husband the $3,000 bribe she paid Frederick Mills, the safety inspector, to sabotage my client's business. That's a felony offense, incidentally." The color evacuated Thomas's face. "Patricia, what is this?" "That's absurd," Patricia stammered, her voice faltering. Karen slid copies of the financial records across the table. "We possess documentation, electronic communications. Mr. Mills is cooperating with authorities in exchange for immunity. Shall I continue? We could discuss your financial circumstances, the impending foreclosure." "Enough." Thomas slammed his palm on the table. For the first time since knowing him, he appeared genuinely angry. "Patricia, what have you done?" Patricia's composure finally fractured. "I did it for our daughter. To protect her from making a mistake." "No," Jasmine's voice sliced through the room like ice. "You did it because you couldn't accept that I chose someone you considered inferior. Someone who actually earned his success instead of inheriting and squandering it through arrogance." Thomas turned to Jasmine, his voice breaking. "We're losing the house." Jasmine's laugh emerged bitter. "You didn't tell him?" "Of course you didn't. The lawsuit was withdrawn the following day. But I couldn't release it. Patricia had attempted to destroy me, had corrupted a government official, had lied and manipulated, all while maintaining her superiority complex from that mansion in the wealthy suburb. The mansion she was about to lose. I contacted Derek. "The Henderson house, when does it go to foreclosure auction?" 5 months. Second Tuesday in April. "What's the outstanding balance?" 520,000. "It'll likely sell for 600 to 650 at auction." I calculated mentally. Rapid Transit had been expanding aggressively. We'd just secured 3 additional major contracts. I had personal savings, and the company had established credit. It would strain resources, but I could manage it. Jasmine discovered me researching auction procedures. "What are you doing?" "Considering purchasing a house. We just renewed our lease." I rotated my laptop so she could view the listing, her parents' house, her childhood residence. "Marcus, you cannot be serious. She attempted to ruin me, Jasmine. She violated laws. She hurt you. Now she'll lose everything regardless. Why shouldn't I be the beneficiary?" "Because you're superior to that," Jasmine said softly. "Because revenge doesn't create success, it creates bitterness." She was correct. But I couldn't let it go. It's not exclusively revenge. It's a sound investment. That property is in a prime location. I could renovate and sell it, or generate rental income. Or you could release it and focus on our future, Jasmine said. Prove her wrong by being happy, not by gloating. I struggled with the decision for weeks. But repeatedly, I'd remember Patricia's expression at that dinner. Her words, "You don't measure up." I'd remember the bribe, the lawsuit, the years of manipulation. The auction convened in a government facility. I sat in the rear row wearing sunglasses and a cap, anonymous among the 70 other bidders, investors, property flippers, real estate professionals with clients. The auctioneer processed properties rapidly. When the Henderson house appeared, my heart rate spiked. 1420 Elmwood Drive. 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath, colonial style. Opening bid $520,000. Do I hear 520? A woman in front raised her paddle. The bidding climbed swiftly. 540. 560. 580. My palms were sweating. At 600, it narrowed to me and one other bidder, a developer I recognized from industry publications. 620, he called out. I hesitated. This was insane. This was allowing Patricia Henderson to occupy mental real estate. 650, I heard myself say. The room went silent. The developer shook his head, withdrawing. The auctioneer scanned the audience. 650,000. Going once, going twice. The gavel struck. Sold to bidder 49. I just purchased Patricia Henderson's house. Jasmine was waiting in my vehicle outside. I'd insisted she not attend. Did you do it? She asked quietly. I did it. She remained silent for an extended moment. What happens now? Now I become their landlord, I said. The foreclosure provided the Hendersons 90 days to vacate, or I could offer to rent at market rate. Jasmine looked at me with an expression I couldn't interpret. Is this who you want to be? That question haunted me for the next week. Was this who I wanted to be? The person who kicked others while they were down, even if they deserved it? I was in my office when my phone rang. Thomas Henderson. Marcus, I know you purchased our house. His voice was tired, but not hostile. I want to meet with you. Alone, without Patricia. Please. We met at a diner outside the city. Thomas looked like he'd aged a decade in months, gray hair, deep lines around his eyes, shoulders slumped with the weight of everything that had collapsed. I'm not here to beg, he began, stirring his coffee without drinking it. I'm here to apologize. And to ask you a question. I'm listening. I've allowed Patricia to control our lives for 30 years. I cut off my eldest daughter because Patricia demanded it. I enabled her cruelty toward you because I was too weak to stand up to her. I've failed as a father and as a man. His voice cracked slightly. My question is this, what kind of man are you going to be? I sat back, surprised by his directness. You have every right to be vindictive, Thomas continued. God knows Patricia deserves it. But Marcus, you've already won. Your company is thriving. You have Jasmine. You've proven every terrible thing my wife said about you was wrong. So now you have a choice, do you become the person who extracts revenge, or do you become the person who shows mercy? She tried to destroy me, I said quietly. She broke the law. She caused real damage. I know. And she'll live with those consequences. But those consequences don't have to include you crushing her while she's already down. That won't make you feel better. It won't make you more successful. It'll just make you more like her. We sat in silence for several minutes. What would you do if our positions were reversed? I finally asked. Thomas looked directly at me. I'd do what Patricia never could, I'd show compassion. Not because she deserves it, but because you do. Because you deserve to be the kind of man who breaks the cycle instead of perpetuating it. That evening, I called my attorney. Karen, I want to sell the Henderson property. But before listing it publicly, I want to offer Thomas Henderson first right of refusal. Structure a private sale, $590,000, which is below market but covers my costs plus a modest profit. Set up a payment plan he can actually manage. Can you draft that? You're sure about this? I'm sure. When I told Jasmine, she cried. But they were tears of relief, of pride. You didn't have to do that, she whispered. Yes, I did. Not for Patricia. Not even for your father. For me. Because Thomas was right, I'd already won. Everything else was just my ego. 3 months later, Thomas signed the purchase agreement. He'd secured refinancing that allowed him to buy back the house at terms he could afford. Patricia would never know I'd given them that opportunity. Thomas kept it between us. Jasmine reconnected with her half-sister Melissa. It turns out they had remarkably similar personalities, and Melissa had been searching for family for years. Within 6 months, they were talking weekly. Patricia and I never spoke again. According to Jasmine, her mother eventually began therapy after Thomas gave her an ultimatum, get help or he'd leave. Whether she genuinely changed, I don't know. That wasn't my concern anymore. Rapid Transit Solutions continued growing. Within 3 years, we had 75 employees and had expanded to 3 states. Within 5 years, we'd become one of the top regional freight companies on the East Coast. Jasmine and I got married in a small ceremony with close friends and family. Thomas walked her down the aisle. Patricia attended but sat in the back and left before the reception. That was fine with us. The real victory wasn't buying Patricia's house or building a successful company. The real victory was realizing that success isn't about proving people wrong, it's about proving yourself right. It's about defining your own worth instead of letting others define it for you. Patricia Henderson spent years trying to convince me I wasn't good enough. For a while, I let her voice become louder than my own. I let her opinion matter more than my own assessment of my potential. The moment I stopped fighting to prove her wrong and started building to prove myself right, that's when everything changed. Because when you're motivated by proving others wrong, you're still giving them power over you. But when you're motivated by your own vision of who you can become, that power belongs only to you. Years later, I occasionally drive past that house in the wealthy suburb. Thomas still lives there. He's repaired his relationship with both his daughters and, from what Jasmine tells me, he's found a sense of peace he never had during all those years of trying to meet Patricia's impossible standards. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd gone through with my original plan, if I'd evicted them, or charged them exorbitant rent, or found some other way to exact revenge. I think it would have felt satisfying for about a week. Maybe a month. But then what? I'd still be that angry kid from the foster system, still fighting battles that were already won, still letting Patricia Henderson occupy space in my head rent-free. Instead, I'm the guy who built something real. I'm the husband of an incredible woman who chose love over money and authenticity over approval. I'm the employer of 75 people who depend on me for their livelihoods. I'm the person who broke a cycle instead of continuing it. If you're listening to this and you've ever had someone tell you that you're not good enough, whether it's a romantic partner's parent, a boss, a teacher, or anyone else, here's what I learned. Their opinion is just that, an opinion. It's not a fact. It's not a prophecy. It's not a limitation unless you accept it as one. The most powerful thing you can do isn't to prove them wrong. It's to build something so authentic and substantial that their opinion becomes irrelevant. Not because you've changed their mind, but because you've changed your life. Patricia Henderson still probably thinks I'm not good enough for her daughter. And you know what? I no longer care. Because I know I'm good enough for myself. I know I'm good enough for Jasmine. And I know that the life we've built together is worth more than any approval Patricia could ever give or withhold. Success isn't about revenge. It's not about proving people wrong. It's about building something meaningful and becoming someone you're proud of, regardless of who's watching, regardless of who's doubting, regardless of who's judging. That's the real victory. That's the success that matters. That's the life worth living. And if you're in the middle of your own battle right now, fighting against someone else's low expectations or harsh judgments, remember this: the best revenge is not revenge at all. The best revenge is building a life so full, so genuine, so successful on your own terms that their opinion becomes nothing more than background noise. You don't need to prove them wrong. You just need to prove yourself right. That's all that matters. That's everything that matters. And that's the lesson I learned from a burnt pot roast, a foreclosure auction, and a choice between bitterness and grace. Choose grace. Choose yourself. Choose the life you want to build. Instead of the revenge you think you need. That's where real power lives. That's where real success begins. That's where real peace exists. Everything else is just noise.